Yep. So, good morning, guys. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone's having a good day. Today's awesome because we actually have someone that has about, I think, roughly over 20 years of experience in IT. His name is Patrick Gorman. He also goes as InfoSec Pat on YouTube, and he has other handles as well. He's been in IT for a really long time, and he's on like Helpdesk, system admin, network admin, cybersecurity. And I know that currently now, I think you're a director, is that correct? He's a
Hmm.
director right now. So Pat today is gonna basically show his insights of getting into an engagement on Red Team and basically showcase some Red Team stuff and explain to us what Red Team stuff is because a lot of people here are new and sometimes you say Red Team like I have no idea what that is. But Pat, thank you for being here, and I'm gonna toss the mic to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kev.
Yep.
Yeah, guys. As you could see my screen, right? You guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, so today, thank you for the intro, Kev. So today what we'll be talking about is red teaming and what is the difference between red teaming and penetration testing, right? And going into a little bit about myself, and thank you for the little intro. So today we'll be talking about what is a red team engagement, right? So this might be a little small, but I can read it. Who am I, right? My name is Patrick Gorman, as Kev said, but I also go by InfoSec Pat. I'm a cybersecurity professional, a cool wannabe hacker, right? So I started in network and system engineering, right? And now I'm a professional hacker. I get paid to hack into your systems, which is pretty cool, right? So I do content creation. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years now. 4 years. So it's almost 5 years. And it's an InfoSec Pat, so you can subscribe today, right? And what I do on a daily basis, I'm a director of offensive security. So I do red teaming and also blue teaming. What does that mean? The red team is more on the offensive side when we're trying to break into your system, test vulnerabilities, and what we're trying to exploit. Now, on the other side of the house, we have what's called blue teaming. Blue teaming is going to defend against these adversaries or these attackers, right? So say, for example, I try to hack and we'll do this today, your Active Directory, right? We have Active Directory. A lot of you guys probably know what AD is from Kevin's videos and other videos out there on the interwebs. But now how can an adversary take advantage of your authenticated server, your Active Directory domain server, right? And we'll get into that shortly. So, and what you can do to mitigate and remediate those vulnerabilities or attacks. So other things I like to do is obviously work out. I have a movement called Get Jacked or Get Hacked. What does that mean? Get hacked is obviously you're going to get your body hacked and susceptible to vulnerabilities like diabetes, cancer, etc. So get your body moving, go work out. You don't have to be an Incredible Hulk, just move the body and just let's live as long as we can, right? I play hockey and I love to travel. So also what I like to do is travel to conferences. I'm going to be speaking at HackSpaceCon this year, and I'll be doing a workshop setting up a penetration testing lab. And I've spoke at B-Side Orlando as well. It was fun. And I've been to conferences like DEF CON, Black Hat, and other little ones around the neighborhood, So where you can find me is on Twitter, InfoSec Pat, Instagram, InfoSec Pat, YouTube, InfoSec Pat, and I have I don't know if you can see this, but I can throw this in the chat later on. I have a Facebook page and my personal LinkedIn, and then I have a business LinkedIn for my InfoSec Pat movement. Okay. So what is red teaming, right? What is this whole thing about? Well, the cool red team, right? So a red team consists of security professionals like yourself or soon to be, right, to act as an adversary, right? So we can try to take control over your cybersecurity controls. Like I said, maybe you have what's called EDR, right? Or you have something called that's endpoint detection and response, something like CrowdStrike or Defender, Komodo. There's so many, Silence. There's so many different kinds of EDR applications that run locally on your machine. So what does this mean? So say, for example, you get a 0-day or an exploit that running on your machine. Now, how can we bypass that? Which is called EDR invasion or AV invasion, right? We're going to invade And the way that you can mitigate that is put what's called IOCs in place, right? Indicators of compromise. So that's that. So also red teams can, often consist of independent ethical hackers like myself, like, you soon to be, right? We can evaluate the system security in a objective manner, right? So that's also what, as an ethical hacker, as a pen tester, as a red teamer, and yeah, let's go on to the next one because I don't want to go on that rant. So red teaming also is focused, right? So we're goal-oriented security testing. We can take 3 months on an engagement. We can take 6 months on an engagement. That's the difference between like a penetration test. Our objective is to find your holes, exploit your holes, and give you a pretty report, right? So red teaming is more testing your security controls, right? So there's two little differences there, right? So goal-oriented security testing method that is designed to achieve specific objectives, right? So our objective is to maybe do some purple teaming. What is purple team? Now, me as a red teamer, Kevin as a blue teamer, right? Because he likes to defend and do his stuff on the defense. Now we can collaborate and say, okay, Kevin or blue team, we can put this in place so we can remediate this so we work collaborative, right? So that means red plus blue equals purple, right? Makes sense? Hopefully. So then red teaming is also like a stealthy procedure, right? We're going to be stealthy in your environment. That often aims to test not only the systems and the protocols in place, like your firewall, your AV, your EDR, your XDR, whatever you have to secure. Remember, you, the human, are the dumbest and the weakest link. So we'll get into that in a moment. And then also the people who manage that, right? So when I say you, the people, meaning the human element, we're the weakest link in any organization in the world, right? Because we don't have a computer, we don't have these defenses. All we have is security awareness training, right? So if you don't get trained, if I send you a pretty picture of myself and say, hey, Kevin, check this cool thing out, and I embed malware or what's called steganography into that image or that JPEG or that ping file, how are you going to know how to analyze that? How are you going to be able to sandbox that and really test and see if there's any malware or anything in that, which is called malware analysis? But yeah, and you can use that with Flare VM, the Zoo. There's a whole bunch of malware stuff. I don't really talk about that stuff on my channel. I have a wealth of knowledge, but I just keep it like this, high level on my channel. But now you guys maybe get a little deeper of what I do and what I'm capable of doing. I don't let people know how smart I really am. But just kidding. So now red team procedures, right? So the red team procedure involves exclusively, right? So we can do some reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is probably the number one thing in any kind of offensive security world, right? So we have to do recon to build some kind of arsenal. Like, okay, we have a web application, right? We have an internal web application that's running in an in-house WordPress, right? So how can we how can we compromise, or how can we scan for those plugins, those themes, or something that may be out of date? We can use tools like WP Scan. We can use like WordPress Scan. That's a tool that we can run. We can also use Burp Suite and interpreters and repeaters and stuff like that, but that's more authenticated, right? So when we're trying to authenticate a token, we want to try to compromise someone's credentials, then we'll, embed some of that cool stuff. But we won't get into that today because today's more like the AD server stuff. Maybe that would make more sense. But if you're interested in web application stuff and pen testing, that's a whole nother ball game. I do a little bit, but I don't really talk about that. But yeah, so like techniques to identify even the most obscure like security gaps, right? So if your organization has security gaps, like I said, the most important thing is educate your user. Trust me on that. And we'll get into some real world stories that I have. So the organization's people, that's why I put people for number one, because we're dumb. Procedures, right? Make sure you have some kind of playbook, God forbid you get ransomware, you have some way to actually respond to an incident, right? The technology and the physical security controls, right? Maybe your security guard, the physical aspect, maybe what is that thing called when you walk in, you get stuck, man cave, manhole, some shit like that. So, the red team procedures, right? We have pen testing, social engineering, and then physical intrusion. Man trap. Thank you. I haven't seen that word since like my Security Plus 10,000 years ago. So the penetration testing, right? We can do network penetration testing, application penetration testing, and mobile device, right? Then we can move on to social engineering, where I pretty much love this because I love to talk. And then we can go on site. We can go on site, smoke a stogie, right? Like, just I don't smoke, but like you can walk around. Maybe you can use your little flipper, clone some badges, and whatever you want to do. Phone calls, right? Telephone, you can call them and say, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm, Joe Blow from, the sales department, whatever." Email, text, etc. Right? So physical intrusion, lock picking. I do have a lock picking kit. Camera invasion, right? So say, for example, a camera is connected to maybe Wi-Fi or some kind of what is it? DVR system, right? That DVR system is probably connected to some kind of internet device if you want to access that outside of your environment. So that is susceptible to some kind of exploit for somehow, right? We could take that public IP, we can run something like Shodan to see if any ports are open that are NATing to that network, right? And then alarm bypasses, right? So if you have any questions, obviously hold the questions and we'll get to that in a minute. So why should you do a red team engagement, right? Red teaming or whatever you want to call it. So the reason why you should do it is by simulating real world attacks, right? So red teaming allows organizations to better understand how their systems and networks can be exploited, right? And provide them with an opportunity to strengthen those defenses before a real attacker does, right? So that's the main objective. We can harden the environment before the bad guy gets in. That's all pretty much it is. So what kind of tools do red teamers use or pen testers? This is just a few that it's 12,000 pages, right? So Nmap, obviously Nmap is the number one tool. I just went down what I use, right? So Nmap, because we have to map out, we have to get some information for services, some kind of, we can do some scripting scans. We can see what ports are open against a target, right? So SQL map, if I'm going to try to dump your SQL database, if I'm trying to authenticate to your SQL database, we'll use something called SQL map. OSINT framework. I love OSINT framework because I like to do OSINT. Shodan, that's what I was just showing. If you go to shodan.io, you can check out a lot of cool stuff. It's like internet indexer for IP addresses and IoT devices. The set, security engineering toolkit. I love this. This is cool. Excuse me. This is cool, but there's so many easier ways to do this now with like PyFisher and so many other like pre like built tools that you can get off GitHub, and you can just clone a site and just harvest credentials. And maybe we can get into that. I can showcase that. Metasploit, obviously Metasploit is the entry level C2, right? It's a framework that we can use for exploiting. We can use this to see auxiliaries, and auxiliaries is testing something to see if it's exploitable. And then post exploitation, say for example, we get a shell on your machine, which we'll show you today. Now we can dump credentials, we can pivot, we can laterally move and do all that fun stuff. Mimikatz, Kevin's favorite, right? So with Mimikatz, what we can do is steal credentials. We can dump your credentials. We do so much stuff, and we're going to dump credentials today, and we're going to steal some stuff. And Bloodhound. So Bloodhound is like a Google Maps of Active Directory. So we will take our AD environment, we'll dump some stuff that include that, some objects, some groups, some OUs, some DAs, domain admins, whatever, and we'll dump that, and then we can see, okay, is Kevin part of the DA? Is Pat part of the DA? Is, Michael Myers a part of the DA? No, yeah. So what is the shortest way for me as a low privilege user get to Kevin, Pat, or Michael's account? So then we can see some pivoting aspects. So now I know, okay, if I get Pat's credentials, I'm DA, boom, bada bing, right? But if I get to Kevin's, he may have Exchange admin, he may do SharePoint stuff. I don't care about all that, right? So now I want to aim for who's Pat. Now I can listen in, which a tool called like Responder, to see if Pat authenticates and dump his hash, and we'll get into that shortly. Now, we can go on and on and on. This is just an overview, right? So obviously, remember to follow me on the social medias. If you have any questions, you can join my Discord. You can, hit me up on Rights of Cyber in a separate whatever. I don't know. You can contact me anyway. And that is pretty much it for this. So any questions? Is there any questions? And we'll golden ticket attacks. Yeah, we can do golden ticket attacks and all that fun stuff. You guys can probably still see my screen. So what I'm going to do is let me know if you have any questions. We can hang out for a few minutes on what I presented while I get all this stuff booted up. So what I'm going to do is boot up a few machines. And this is all for my PMPT lab, because I'm studying for the PMPT. So I want to boot all these bad boys up. While that's booting up, we can take some questions. Any questions? Don't be scared.
Looks like Will had a question.
Yeah, Will, go for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a question more, but I'm Will, from New York, moved to Florida. I still, still New York is ingrained in me, so I wanted to be a part of this. I'm starting out my information technology route, and still trying to learn the CompTIA Plus. So I'm happy y'all doing this, but it sounds like essentially like all these red team, blue teams is kind of just like jumping out of like, or you're the foundation that I'm learning is what this is essentially attacking. So we're attacking like ports, open ports or closed ports. We're attacking, just Active Directory. This is the things I'm actually right now learning in the process of learning in CompTIA, whatever the course I'm taking. So it's just, just looking at the drivers, outdated. I know you mentioned outdated drivers or whatever. So it's just like dealing with that essentially just at another level in a sense.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So yes, so essentially the A plus, network plus, security plus, those are the fundamentals of understanding open ports, operating systems, because we're going to show some commands, right? So say, for example, I'm on your machine, right? I compromise Will's machine. Well, I'm in your house. I'm in Florida too, so maybe sometime we can chill. I don't know where you're at, but say, for example, I'm over your house, right? And I bring my fancy little laptop or my little card, and I'm like, Will, you have Wi-Fi? Oh, I already got your password because I already cracked your password, right? So the way we can do that is we have to understand what is the frequencies, right? And you learn that, right? I think in the A plus or network plus. I don't know. I took my A plus, almost 20 years ago now. So there's something called 2.4 gigahertz and then 5 gigahertz, right? So these frequencies we have to try to compromise, right? It's all airwaves. And I'm just talking about Wi-Fi because I'm just saying, we're going to hack your Wi-Fi. But if we want to do outdated drive, I didn't talk about outdated drivers. I was talking about more of applications and plugins. But yes, if there's a driver outdated, maybe that will be more for like what's called low-level binary exploitation. So what is that? So a driver is something called dynamic link library, right? So a DLL or an init file. So with this, now I can drop what's called a file intrusion attack. So with that, I can put it into your, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't do A plus, network plus stuff anymore. So it's in Windows System 32 etc drivers. I think that's where your drivers reside.
That is correct.
Yeah. So see, my fish oil helps my memory. So like now I can get into that, directory, and I can dump some kind of malicious DLL. Now I can say, okay, it's called, I don't know, GeForce or NVIDIA, whatever, because maybe a lot of nerds, use NVIDIA graphics cards or whatever, right? So you always get an update with them. So knowing that and doing your due diligence and what's called reconnaissance, this will give me some information on what you're trying to attack, right? So to answer your question, yes, learning about the A plus will give you that fundamentals if you want to guide yourself into cybersecurity, because that's where you're going to either be defending or attacking or both. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, someone says, looking forward to the lab in action ahead. How often do you disable Windows Defenders once on the box?
Yeah, that's so Jess. So how often do I disable Windows Defender on the box? So are you asking how often do I disable Windows Defender when I'm doing a lab? All the time, right? The reason being, if I'm doing a red team engagement, if I'm trying to invade or leave all my systems lit up, meaning like enable EDR, enable Defender, and what's called EDR invasion, then I'll do different kinds of techniques, right? There's different kinds of techniques to invade, EDRs, right? So we can invade that. And but for a lab environment, if we're just testing something, I always disable it just so it's not in the way. But on a real engagement, I'm not going to tell the client, "Hey, disable your stuff," so it makes my job easier, right? We want to test their controls, aren't we? So that's going to go ahead and so if we're doing a real engagement, the 99% of the time they are enabled, and we have to try to work our way around that. And in a lab, I always disable it. I just create a group policy on my DC and just push that. And I'll show you guys that. I'll show you guys that. So any other questions? I'm just logging into everything. Okay, thank you. Yep, you're welcome. So I want to go ahead and log into my DC. See, New York Rangers, right? That's my domain. I don't remember this password. I think it's this. Oh, nope. Oh, shit. This is one thing I learned, guys. If you're doing a lab, don't be like me, please. I always change passwords, and I always try to make passwords like so different from other stuff. And that's why, like, I think I talked about that on my live yesterday. If you're going to go ahead and like do like PMPT, for an example, go ahead and just, create it as is. Don't try to make up, your own domain, your own users, because you're definitely going to get a little confused. So I forgot my lab page. Yeah, I always forget it. And then what I have to do is I have to try to authenticate and dump my hash and try to crack the hash that was in the SAM database. So in the SAM database, the passwords are running in memory. Normally when I'm running my lab, I keep them running. So if I forget it, I can just dump it and crack it. And usually it's like password 1 or password 2024, bang, or something like that. But I always forget what I use when I use it. So we have my domain controller here. Let me see if I can zoom this in, because I don't know how small it is for you folks. Bring this in a little bit more. And let's open up a few things, right? Because if you're a sysadmin or network admin, more a sysadmin, right? We're going to go ahead and spend a lot of time in Active Directory. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Zoom this bad boy in. And this Windows 10 box here. Frank Castle as well. It's Frank's password. I think it's password 1. Nope. See, this is what. See, I thought it was password 1, and that's the recommendation. Nope, it's password 2024. All right. So let me probably make that change shortly. So does everyone in here know what Kali Linux is? If you don't, just put it in the chat to say, I don't know. And we will, I might have to like put this over here for a second. Do you guys know what Kali Linux is? Yes, yes, cool. Yes, somewhat. Cool. Nope, you're going to learn a little bit more today. So what Kali Linux is, it's a penetration testing distribution. So it's, I have on a laptop that I use for work, I have actually 3. but two main operating systems that I use, right? So I use Kali Linux. It's pre-built. I have it with all my tools. And then I have ParrotSec as well, because when I'm doing Wi-Fi pen testing or anything like that, I like it because the drivers just work. And I also use something called a Wi-Fi Pineapple and a little gadget like this little guy. This little guy here is a Wi-Fi Nugget. So this is a Wi-Fi hat. It looks like Batman or a little kitty cat. But with this little device, I could be by your house, capture your packets, take that PCAP file, and go crack it at home. And this looks like a little toy. So imagine I'm just playing, looks like a little Game Boy, you know, and I'm in the, you know, whatever. You're somewhere, and then you can compromise some cool information. So that's why be careful with those little nerds that have little devices in their hand. They're probably doing something fun. All right, so DMPT. All right, so yeah, and then I also use Ubuntu. On Ubuntu, one of my Ubuntu boxes that I use on my real laptop that's in my bag for work is like my dedicated tools that I use. Because I don't, you know, Kali Linux is cool because it has everything on it in one pane of glass, right? So you don't have to go download, you don't have to go find repositories, you don't have to do all that. Everything is there. But what if you don't need all of that? What if you're just doing an internal assessment that you're using maybe Bloodhound, you're using Nmap, you're using, you know, ACRAC and no, that's for Wi-Fi, Crack Map Exec, Net Exec, these kind of tools that we're going to utilize today for your internal assessments, right? So it's always best to have a few flavors to your madness. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. All right, so first thing we do, we're going to start from scratch. And I did this yesterday, right? So we can do an Nmap. So let me make sure I move this a little bigger. We can do an Nmap scan. Everyone here knows what Nmap is? I have Ansible spun up and, oh, cool. That's pretty sweet, Jess. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, Ansible is cool. You can have Kubernetes, you can have, you know, Docker, and it all depends on obviously what your intentions are with your Kali machine, right? So remember I was saying I do some specific switches all the time. So I'll do like CV pretty much right here. So what is -SV? That's going to do a service scan. So say, for example, we find something called SMB, right? So SMB runs on what port? Does anyone know what port SMB runs on? Throw it in the chat. 445. Yep, cool. So we see 445 running on a machine. We know we'd probably be able to use something like there's some kind of share on that machine. So we can try to use something like Crack Map Exec, but we'll get into that shortly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just do this before we do anything, because I don't want to mess up everything. So I want to do mkdir, and I want to make Sunday Fun Day. Sunday Fun Day. Okay, just make a little directory for Sunday Fun Day for you guys, right? So now let's go ahead and do an nmap dash and then let's do, for an example, I'm going to produce Sunday, if I can spell, sunday.txt. And I want to do in my, I don't even know what my, see, prime example. All right. How do I know what's my IP address for my Kali machine? Not if config, the new school way, the new kids on the block. How do you get an IP address of my Kali machine? Anyone? Let's see. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you guys know. No, ping is going to go, ping is going to send some kind of packet to see if a service or a site or an IP address is up. That's not going to give me the IP address of my Kali machine. Because I need to see, okay, so the reason why I'm asking that, so here we need to run it against a subnet, right? An IP address space. No. That's going to give the IP, that's going to give the IPv4 address for my, I'm not giving that. That's my public IP. We just need to know my IP address for my Kali machine, my LAN IP. This dude think he's slick, son. So any IPA, exactly. Oh, nope, not that. My bad. Yep, IPA. So what In my case, I have Docker too. So I have a loopback address. I have my ETH0. So what we can also do so we don't have all that clutter, we can do ETH0 here, right? If we know our ETH, wasn't that the IP? It was ETH0. All right, here. So my IP address is 192.168.29.128, right? So that is the subnet. I'm just going to go ahead and so I don't look like a fool and I don't forget it. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that, but obviously I want to do 0/24 and let that thing cook. So what are we doing here? We're running a service scan and we're going to see a default scripting scan to see if there's any vulnerabilities or anything like that. Then we're going to put that output to a sunday.txt and we're running against our whole network, which in our case is only 4 machines, right? So we have this, whoa, hear that baby cooking. So we have this IP, which is, I don't even remember because I haven't been on this machine in a couple of days. So we'll do an IP config here. So this IP address for, what is this name? New York Rangers 2. All right, so New York Rangers PC1. All right, so we have this IP address at 192.168.29.133. And let's go see what PC2 is doing. Let's make this bigger. Damn, that network is running like it's going to take off. Damn airport. All right, so let's see what's cooking here. So this machine, which is at PC2 is at 132. But in a pen test, we're not going to have access to these machines. Remember that, like on a real engagement, you're dropped in an environment. All you have is your Kali machine, but obviously we can cheat a little bit, right? So my DC, let's go see what my DC is at. My DC is at 131, right? And I think it's called New York Rangers DC, if I remember correctly. Yep. So 131, 132, 133, right? So technically, this thing is still cooking, I think. And we'll go through these results. So in a real environment, right, if you're doing a pen test with 200 hosts or 200 plus hosts, this report is going to be pretty large, right? Or this output. And then you have to you can open it up and just skim through it, and then you can, grep it. And we'll do some of that right now because I'm not going to be sitting here reading all this. I know just what I want. So once this is done, is it done? Okay, it's done. Cool. So let's clear this. Let's cat Sunday, right? So now we have all the results to our scan. I know I'm going a little fast. If I'm going fast, let me know. So remember 445, right? This is what we want because we talk about SMB. So, all right, I want to ask a question. In this file, I just want to see the results for 445. How do I do that? Now for the sunday.txt, all I want to see is stuff that everything that says 445. How do I do that? Grep, but what is the whole command? Can you tell me the whole command? Nice, good shit. Exactly. So 445, right? So this is okay, this is everything that's 445, but we can also do pipe, grep, IP. Nope, I guess is it just IP? Nope. TCP, TCP. I guess that's going to show the same thing. All right, no worries. So we have all these. Actually, we can do something like host name. No, is it capital H? I don't even know. Because Linux is stupid like that. Whatever. So we have 3 here, right? So right there. So we just have 3, and which makes sense because we have 3 Windows machines. Makes sense? So this is how you can go through it and, grep. You can use grep to speed up the process. So say, for example, we want to do 3389, for example, 3389. There's nothing because I don't have RDP open. And Yeah. So you can use grep to just look through a file. So I don't know why it's not giving the IP. I guess it just shows the IP. It doesn't. Okay. So what I can do now, this is what I can do also. I can do, no, not that. 445 grep. See if I can do 192.168.29. Let's see if this works. Nope. All right. That's weird. All right. No worries. I don't care about that right now. All right. So, so we have 131 hour DC. Now, in a real environment, we can run responder, right? In a, in the morning when you're on that engagement, because what responder is doing is listening in for any kind of LLMNR, DNS, DHCP request, HTTP server authentication, HTTPS, proxy, whatever. So what we're going to do here is we're going to run responder. And what we're doing here, the interface in my case is ETH0. And we're going to look for DHCP. We're going to look for, these is a tool to listen in for all this good stuff. So what I'm doing here is the poisoners are LLMNRs on, and you can see it. And there's different servers, SMB, which we could probably attack, right? Because 445, HTTP. So now this is my IP address, 192.168.29.128, right? So what we can do is speed up the process, because we can just go to, what is this one? And we can do, let's just do the SMB way. We can go here and we can create a batch file. Like as an attacker, you can create a PowerShell script. You can put it in logins, like on your domain controller. So like if I'm looking at a domain, if I found the domain, I can go to your syslog logon scripts, and then I can point it to my attack machine. But obviously we're not going to do, we're going to make it as easy as possible. So 192.168.29.128, this is my attack machine. And now this is the authentication. So say, for example, you're a user, you probably don't know that. You probably got this, oh, I can't get to my map drives. Let me re-authenticate, right? So let me authenticate as Frank Castle, right? And then password 1, because that's my password. It didn't work. But as an attacker, now we just got your hash down here, where is it? Oh, because I already got the hash. So it's in my pop file. So what I'm going to do is just skip this, right? Let's just do cd ... and just do ls, and we have it in here. This hash.txt by cat hash.txt. We can see the any question? Punisher is great. Yeah, Punisher is a great movie. So then Frank Castle's hash is right here, right? So what we can do now, we can take this. I want to go ahead and copy this, and I want to make a new, I want to go back to my Sunday, because I don't want to mess up with my, I want to do nano Sunday hash, and do Sunday hash .txt. Okay, and let's paste this bad boy here. Control X, yes, bada bing, bada boom. Clear ls. Now we have this Sunday. Now we can cat Sunday dash, and now we have Frank Castle's hash, right? Anyone have any questions? What I just did, how I got that, and because I may be moving too fast. I don't think I'm moving fast, but obviously for you folks, it may. If you have any questions, let me know. Anything? No? All right, so all right, now I'll ask a question. Now we have Frank Castle's hash in this case, or we have Kevin's hash, we have Will's hash, we have whoever else is in this chat's hash. What can we do now with that hash? And remember, this is, okay, what kind of hash is this? Before I even say, does anyone know what kind of hash this is? Right here? Anyone? Yep, LTLMV2. Yep. And all right, so now we need to crack this, right? So we can use hashcat, but we don't know what mode, right? So we can do -- help grep NTLM, right? So now we're going to grep this. So now we know it's what Jess said, right? LTLM v2 hash. So what mode is that? 5600. Fair enough. So now what we can do, we know now it's 5600. So now we can do hashcat -m 5600, and that's not my hash. My hash is Sunday. Sunday, right? Is it Sunday? Did I make it Sunday? Sunday. Fuck. Was it Sunday? I don't even know. Hold on. Let me see. Sunday hash. Okay. Right. That's the thing. The hash. All right. So now Sunday hash, Sunday hash, Sunday hash. -m 5600 Sunday dash hash. And now we need to know where our, all right. So in my case, sometimes I don't remember where my password lists are, right? So let's go CD to PMPT Sunday. So sometimes I don't remember where my hash file, excuse me, my word lists are. So anyone know how to find? We're going to do rocku.txt just for simple sake, and that's good. Thank you, Devin. You can definitely get some more examples on Hashcat, and I think that site puts it in numerical order. So if you do like hashcat -- help, you can see all the hashes and all the modes and all the everything, but it's not in numerical order or whatever numerical order. So it's a pain in the butt. So use a word list, but I don't know where it is. Like, I don't know. So we can use locate. So locate rocku.txt, right? So this will give me, yeah, you are right where it is. But what if I move that to somewhere else and I forgot, right? So if you're trying to use, if you're trying to look for anything in the subsystem of Linux, you can use a command called locate. So if I made a picture of prettypat.jpg, and I don't know what the hell I put it. I didn't leave it in my pictures directory. I put it on some weird place because I don't want anyone to look at my pretty face. I wouldn't know how to get there unless I know these little trick commands, right? So now I know where my word list is. So I can copy this. Let's come back to the first thing, do a little paste-a-rooney, and go ahead and hit enter. Now this is going to go ahead and crack it. It already found it. It's in the pot file. So now what we can do is do up arrow -- show. And we can see the password right here. This was my password, right? So it's password 2024, bang. So this was my password. And now I have whose password? Frank Castle with this password. Now what can I do with that, right? So, all right, now we have a password. We have a username that we cracked. Now what can we do next? Any takers? Do you have your custom passwords file? Me personally, like Cherry, like me personally, or when I do my labs? If I'll answer both, I guess, but yeah, fair enough. So if I'm doing labs, 99% of the time I'll use sec lists or rocku.txt, right? For my own stuff on my laptop, I have a whole custom word list that I created over the years. And you can create your own word list on specific. So now a lot of people here are from New York, right? There's probably New York Giant fans, New York Jet fans, there's New York Ranger fans, there's New York Mets, Yankees, because we're a big sports state, right? At least from my neighborhood. And I know, for an example, my friend John loves the New York Giants, right? He's a big Giant fan. So maybe, his password, I could put a combination of NY Giants and like have different sequences of New York Giants, right? Spelt out, uppercase, lowercase, however. And so if I'm doing a pen test on a city like, I'm just going to say New York for us, I'm going to make a custom word list for New Yorkers, right? So that's how I do it outside of the lab environment. We're talking about the quote unquote real world, right? So yeah, so you can create your own. I create my own. Yep, thank you. And I can show you guys how to create your own word lists and do all that stuff. There's a cool tool out there that I use. I have to find it. Give me 1 second. I'll show you now. Villain. I can never type. Worse. 1 sec. So this is one of my buddies. Let's go to his projects. Actually, let's just go to his thing in the repository. So villain. Which one is the password? Look at repositories. Villain, hoax shell. Dev tree. Oh, right here. I think this is the word list creator. Yeah. So you see here, for example, we can say, for example, he's using the word Microsoft, common patterns after, for example, 2020 to 2023. Now this created, how many is that? Shit. 49 million, whatever this number is, right? 49 million. So it's about almost a gig, right? So if he greps this, you can see that the combination, you get the gist. So you can customize this and it creates it for you. So this is what I do in the real world. I use another tool as well, but I love his stuff because I love to support people I love. And he has some good tools out there. So I can post his repositories. Let me copy this and I'll paste it for you folks. And you can definitely use that to create your own word list if you're interested. Yep. Cool. Any other questions on the initial tax? Nothing? Cool. No worries. So now what we can do, we have some kind of credentials. And I think I changed this, but we'll see that. So now we can do what's called Metasploit MS, my favorite. Not, but we'll use Metasploit today. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, he's really cool. He has some cool tools. He tries to keep it up to date. And yeah, check him out. All right. So there's multiple ways to, I guess, compromise or gain a shell, right? We can use Metasploit and we can use different tools inside of Kali, sort of like psexec.py, where that comes with the Impacket toolkit. We'll do both ways. So let's just clear this. So let's search for psexec, right? So let's make this a little smaller so I can see it better. Whatever. All right, so there's remember these different modules, right? There's auxiliaries, there's exploits, there's post exploits, and all that good stuff. So what we're going to use is exploit Windows SMB right here. So we're going to use number 4, right? So let's use number 4. Patiently wait. So now we can do show options to see what we have to set, right? So the R host, I don't know what my R host is because I have good memory, but I think I have like short-term memory loss or something. All right, so 133, 29, 123, 133. All right, so this is why when you're doing a real assessment, you have your, all your notes on one thing. Don't be like me when you grow up. All right, so set our host and 192, 168.29.133. That's right. 133. This I don't look like a fool. All right, 133. Okay, so now what we can do is we can also do let's just keep coming up. The one thing about Metasploit is like fill in the blanks. That's literally we're attacking 445. So we just pretty much come down the line, and if it's required, you have to put it in. And the stuff that says it's not required, you still want to put that in if you have that information. So for example, set password. So I can do set SMB pass. and my password is password1, right? Even though, all right, so you saw what I cracked was password 2024 bang with the @ sign and stuff like that. But when I attempted to redo some stuff in my lab, I changed my password because some things weren't working. And so pretend this is 2024 bang, the one that we cracked, right? Let's make believe. All right, so what else we have to do? The SMB domain. So the SMB domain, in my case, if we come back here, we don't remember, like me, we can do, where am I at? Let's go ahead and cat Sunday. Oh, if I could spell cat. I have a kitty cat now. I can't even spell cat. All right, .txt. And we can come up here and we can see if we get the domain. Let's see, where's my, right here. So domain, and let's see if it gives me the actual domain. That's the server name right here. So my thing is nyr.local, New York Rangers.local. So that's what you're going to enumerate to when you do your, Nmap scan. So New York Rangers. Whoops. Domain is going to be nyr.local in my sense. And now we can just do, let's do Control L, show options. And it looks pretty good. We have the remote host that we want to attack. We have the service that we're trying to go after. We have the domain and we have the password. Let's see if I know what I'm doing. Let's run this and see. Okay, attempt failed. All right, let's see if it's going to try to user. Oh, did I put? No, I didn't. I'm an idiot. See? That's why notes SMB user is fcastle. Now let's try to run that. Access denied. Perfect. This is good. This is not good, but it's good, right? When you're saying, I think maybe I was trying to test something and re-enable something. So now the reason why it can't get it, because did you hear ding? I don't know if you heard that ding. So what happened was Windows, this one, right? Probably blocked it. So Defender is probably enabled. Yeah. So let's do this. Let me actually run GP result. If I can spell result /R. Let me see. I thought I applied a policy to disable. But maybe it was in my other domain. All right, who cares? Let's just go to Windows security, because this is not about Windows invasion and all that stuff. We want to go to account protection, firewalls. This is all off. Why isn't it working? That's interesting. All right, let's give this another jingle. Access denied. PowerShell fcastle. I'm doing the right IP address, right? 133. This is the real stuff. 133, yeah. So let me do something. Let me see show options real quick. Payload, reverse shell, password 1, New York Rangers. Let me see something with let's try to get onto this one. Let's see. $132. Let me make sure this stuff is it is off. Obviously, this is not best practice in the real world, but it's best practice to see, because in the real world, you're going to invade this stuff, right? You're going to try to use some tools to tinker with and invade all this. So we'll do the same thing with 132. let's try that. All right, so set our host 192.168.29.132. All right, let's try to run that. Access denied. Wow. All right, that's interesting. Yeah, you see how it's doing this? I'm not sure why it's actually. Yeah, you see firewall discern off, blah, blah, blah. Action. Yeah, you see. Oh, shit. Oh my God, whatever. And you can see here, like trying to remediate and run it from a device, an attacker. But I want to remove this. Let's see why it's not allowing me to run this. Let's turn real time off, cloud protection off, turn everything off. We want to see a shell. All right, let's give that another jingle. Run. There we go. That's how you get this thing to work. So now we have a shell, right? So now we can do who am I? Or actually shell, right? Whoops, if I can spell shell. Now we're in a shell. We can do who am I? We're system authority. We do an IP config. And then we can see that we're on here, host name. And we're on that PC. Windows Fan is doing its job. Yeah, it is doing its job good today. And yeah, so that's one way, right? And obviously this is not going to be about invading that, but in the lab, you can turn all that stuff off. And I did create a group policy, and I'm going to show you case that. And for all you Windows admins out there and Windows pros, and you can see that I have, oh my God, what is my bad? All right, so if we go to group policy, so you have Windows Defender. Let's see the settings. We can say New York Rangers enforce. This is the setting. Turn off Defender enabled. See, it's applied to my domain. So I don't know what's going on. Interesting that, come on, give a shit. So interesting. So it's actually, all right, whatever. It is what it is. But so there is one way to get an initial shell. So now we can do is whatever we want, right? We own that domain. We can do whatever, add users and stuff like that. But we're not going to do that now. Let's just go to exit -y and exit. All right. So now the next way we can do is something called PS exec. And oh, that's the hash. We don't want to do hashes yet. We'll do hashes in a minute. So what did we just do? 32, right? Let's compromise 32. Yeah, we'll just stick with 32. So we have, let's do 32. And then we're just going to stick with fcastle for now. Because later we'll dump some hashes and castle. And then, so fcastle, oh, you know what? That's going to be a local user. So what we're going to do is PS exec, New York Rangers / fcastle. Okay. And then our password is password1. Remember, because the reason why we're able to perform these attacks is because we already got all the credentials, right? So once you do your initial, reconnaissance and gathering some stuff, that's how you're going to be able to 29.132. So let's see. There we go. There's another way. Who am I? I can spell who am I? Who am I? I'm system authority. Same thing, like ls or dir. We can see all the files, and we can put files, download files, and we can stop this. But yeah, now that's another way to get that initial shell when we're compromising your machine. And the last thing we can try to do is with an administrator shell. Let's go cd ... And we can see. Let's go ahead and do Is it in, let's see, SAM database, SAM hashes. SAM hashes. Yeah. So SAM hashes, obviously this is a local hash that we have here. So what we're going to do is try to use this hash and authenticate to that machine, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that. So another PS exec, not going to use that. Right. So now we're going to do administrator hash. Is that the same hash? 6. Yeah. So, but I need to change the IP address to, let me see, .2. And there you go. So now I didn't even need the password for that admin account, right? As long as I got that hash, I can authenticate. That's it. Super, super simple. So, and how we get that hash is using responder, using techniques to dump that hash. So trying to think what other techniques we can do. And then now we can just talk about a little bit about post compromise. Once we have stuff, right? Now we have a username, we have passwords, we have stuff to do. What can we do next, right? And let's go ahead and exit it. Any questions about these two techniques to get that initial access? Any questions so far? So far, so good. Hopefully it's making sense. Hopefully it's informative for you guys. And if it's over your head, don't worry, because you know, you definitely can learn it. If I could do it, you could do it. Trust me. So the next thing we can do, we have username, we have passwords, right? Now, once we have that information, how do we know who's in Active Directory, right? Now we know how many people are in here. I don't even know. Let me move this stuff over. I don't even know how many people are here, but however many people are here, say 10 people, right? We have 15, 20 people, whatever, how many people are here. There's 20 people inside of Active Directory. And now as a pen tester, you're going to need the way of, how can we say it? Like, we need to know who's associated with groups, right? And what groups are most important to us? Domain admins, right? We don't care about Kevin, that's a low privilege user, that, you know, whatever, or Pat, that's the, you know, low hanging fruit. We want to aim for the sky, right? So what we can do, let me come back here. Let's do a little Clara Rooney. And now we can do locate. I don't know where this is because I always forget. So we have a tool called LDAP domain dump. This is going to dump everything that's associated with the domain that we're attacking. In our case, it's New York Rangers, right? And NYR. So excuse me, let me clear that. Let me do, oh, why did I just clear that? Because I don't even know what the hell it is. Let's come all the way up. And we're going to run this from here. So I'm going to copy this because this is where the location of the tool is. And now I can clear that, paste this. All right. And then what we're going to assume that we're going to attack is our domain, right? Because the domain controller is the NS server, is the domain controller, global catalog server, and all that stuff. So I'm going to do fcastle. This is not my password. This is the old password. So password 1, right? So we need to run the tool l.s because I have my LDAP has my Active Directory has a certificate. So I'm using LDAP-S, not just 389 for LDAP. And then 192.168.29.131 is my domain controller. My user that I want to authenticate with is fcastle, and the -p is for password. So once I hit enter here, boom, I can hit ls here. Now I have all the information for that domain. Bam. You just got pwned, son. All right, so now what we can do is run like Firefox. Let me see what I want to do. Let's do an ls. And what would we like to see? I want to go ahead and just do, we can do, I don't care about domain users. I want to know who's in domain admins. So I'm going to do domain users by group. So let's go ahead and just, if I can, let's see if I can open this, or do I have to do it the old school way? Of course, I have to do the old school. All right, so let's just go browse out to where that is. I always forget where I put it. So it's in Cali, PMPT, Sunday Fun Day. And then mine is, what did I say? Domain users by group, double click this, and just be patient, right? Patience is key. Doom, 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 doom. All right. All right. I use Brave browser, but now with that file, now we can see, we can see all the groups I created. So we can see Hawkeye, that's something I'm just messing with. And we can see the domain admins. So this is what I'm curious about, right? Domain admins. So I know Hawkeye is a part of domain admins, Hawkeye 1, Hawkeye 2, administrator, SQL service. So Kevin can probably answer this, right? He was a network system admin. If he's setting up service accounts, 99% of the time, he's probably going to add that to a domain admins group normally. So now, and he may have put the password in the description, right? A lot of people do that. I was one of them. When I didn't know about security, I just knew about convenience. So if I logged into my Active Directory as a sysadmin, and I just want to see, okay, the QuickBooks service account, or Tomcat, whatever service account that we're running, I put in the description, this is the password for this account. I used to do it. Trust me, I will be the first one to admit. So we can see here, put the password in the description. Yep, exactly. Now we know, right? We can use password vaults and Delinea to rotate those passwords. There's so many different techniques now to be a little more secure. But back then, I was a retard. You know what I mean? So now, now we can see all the domain admins, right? So now we know the password for this. Now, now we have the password for the SQL box, right? So, or the SQL account. And yeah, enterprise admins, schema admins, we can see everything here. So now what we can do, we'll move on to a little more of enumeration, but this is so critical because this gives me a lot of information about your domain, right? So now I can know who to attack. If Kevin and Devin and Will and Jess or whatever is just a part of, the low privilege users, I don't care about them. Not at this stage of my assessment, right? Because now I want to target, high accounts. So so far, hopefully that makes sense. All right. So now, what the next thing we'll do is let's do an ls because I don't want to. Let's go ahead and make directory, and we'll move into a little bit of Bloodhound. Does anyone know what Bloodhound is? Huh? Anyone know what Bloodhound is? Anyone used Bloodhound before? AD recon exploit. It's not an exploitation tool. It's just reconnaissance. It's like Google Maps of Active Directory. We're not exploiting anything. We're pretty much, it suggests that exploit. Exactly. Yep. Cool deal. So you have used it. Anyone else? So Jess is the only one that has used Bloodhound. Yeah. Okay. No sweat. So obviously you need to install it, download it, configure it. But once it's configured, we can do Neo4j console. And let me see if I remember that password. I think I changed that password. See if I put that in my notes. Probably didn't, of course. It has to be one of these passwords. So we'll figure it out. All right. So once we load the Neo4j console, right, then we have this remote interface available at localhost because it's pretty much sitting locally on my machine. It's at port 7474. So let's go ahead and copy this. Open up. Let's open up here. All right. So let's open up here, enter, and pray that I remember my password. Oh, cool. I saved it. I don't know what it is, but I saved it. All right. Connect. So now we are connected. I think it's password 1. So now I am connected to the Neo4j database, right? This is not Bloodhound yet. Now we're just connected because we can have multiple databases running in Neo4j. And now what we need to do is run the application. So let's come back to the command line. Let's open up a new tab. And now we look like ninja hackers or wannabe hackers like me. All right. Let me log in here. Let's do a little PD, CD to PMPT, Sunday Funday. And then that's fine. So now we can just run Bloodhound, right? Bloodhound. Bloodhound. Right. And just wait for it to boot. All right, so now we just have to authenticate, and now I have to remember my Neo4j. And let's see if I remember my password. Is that it? No. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. All right, I don't remember it. So let's just cheat and go here and go to passwords and go to here and copy it because I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to show it because I don't know. I don't remember if I actually use one of my passwords or not. But there you go. Now we're authenticated to Bloodhound. Now this is obviously some stuff. So what we can do is come if you have data in your Bloodhound, if you mess around with it, tinker with it, we can go ahead and clear that out by clicking this little hamburger on the top left. We can come all the way down and clear database. Clear database. Hasta la vista, baby. All right. Now we have a clean slate. All right. So now I want to test you guys, right? I want to see for the blood, I guess just for you, since you have some Bloodhound and this kind of experience, how do we get the information from our AD to Bloodhound? Or anyone, not only Jess. Like I just always pick on Jess now because he's the one that answers some stuff. But now we need to get the data from our Active Directory to import it into Bloodhound to enumerate or search or whatever. So how do we do that? Anyone? Any takers? Anyone go to sleep? Everyone's sleeping? I'll give you guys 30 seconds. I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, especially myself when I was learning all about this stuff. When you do the forest box on Hack the Box, when you're compromising the forest and the domain, and when I had to take out the data, ingest it into Bloodhound, it was a nightmare. And Bloodhound, it can be a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie, but all right, I guess I get no takers. All right, so let's go ahead and learn that. We're gonna learn today, boy. All right, so let's go ahead and open up a new one just so I don't lose my spot. And then let me authenticate to this. And let's CD to PMPT. Sunday Fun Day. Sunday. All right, so there's something called Bloodhound Python. So let me see if I can actually do that. All right, so this is not the password. Make sure I have. So what is this? What am I doing here? Oh, wait, before I do that, let me do an ls. Let me do a, I'm going to make another directory. I have to delete all this because, okay, dir, I want to put Bloodhound dump. Okay, cd to Bloodhound dump. All right, so now I can do Bloodhound 131. This is not my password, and I'll explain what I'm doing right here in a second. So Bloodhound Python is the Bloodhound ingester, or like Sharp Hound or something like that. We can think about it. -g is obviously our domain, right? My domain is nyr.local. My username is fcastle. My password is password1. And my name server pointing to my domain controller is 192.168.29 and .131. And what do I want to do? I want to collect everything. So let's hit enter here and just watch the magic happen. So now this is collecting everything from my Active Directory. And now we can do an ls and we have all this data here, all this JSON files. So now what we can do is go ahead and come back to Bloodhound. Let me make sure I remember where I am. Fun Day, Bloodhound dump. And we can come over here into the upload data, right? And then we can just go to not there. We can go ahead, Bloodhound. No, where is that? User, I don't remember where I was. Here. No, this is root. Home. User, USR. Where the hell is my county? Let's just do this. Oh, shoot. Let's go ahead and I can't like talk and like do this at the same time. But no, PMPT, Sunday Funday, Bloodhound dump. All right, so this is the data that we just compromised or just dumped, right? So we can do Control A, open, let all this stuff ingest into Bloodhound, and then we can wait for that to go. Patience, patience, patience. And now look, everything looks 100%. We can X out of here. I don't think I can zoom this in. If anyone knows how to zoom this in, let me know. But here it says the database status, the stats, excuse me, the address obviously is my local address from my Bloodhound. The users, Neo4j, blah, blah, blah. Relationships, ACLs, Azure relationships. I don't have Azure coming into here. You can use Azure with Plumhound and doing some other stuff, authenticating to AD, but this is not about that. So now we can go to analysis and we can see, okay, find the domain admins. And click on find domain admins, you hit this little sandwich. Now in here, this will show us all the domain admins that reside in my case, myr.local. We have, Hawkeye 2, Hawkeye, service, blah, blah, blah. So now we can just right click on here. We can see, okay, shortest path for it to be owned. No data. Okay, that's fine. Let's see who else. What did I just do? SQL? Let's do SQL. Nothing. Okay. That's fine. Remember, this is just a test environment, so not everything has data in it already. But say, for example, let's come back here. Let's click on this one, for example, and we can see in the description here the same thing. We have that password, my password, 123 bang, or not bang, a hashtag or pound. So yeah, so this is just going to give you some more insight of your AD. You can go ahead and click on okay, ungroup. And now you can see, find local admins. And this is going to be here. And we can see, okay, shortest path to here. We can see, okay, this is going to give us the shortest path to the domain, right? Obviously, we can zoom this in, take this out, and move this around. But you guys get the gist. And you can see add key credential link, admin to. So this is admin to, enterprise admins, domain admins. So the members of is Hawkeye. The containers is the groups. Remember, in AD, we have a groups OU container, not an OU. Then there's users container. Whoops. And you guys get the gist, right? So you can see here, it just pretty much maps out all your AD. So in this case, this is, and it can be a little overwhelming at first, right? It can be a lot of information. But once you get a hang of it, it's awesome, right? It's going to give you a lot of insight of your Active Directory and all that stuff. So, and there's other tools, right? There's other tools to enumerate. I think I forgot, Kevin, you were talking about one that you can enumerate your AD, see if there's vulnerabilities. It's pretty much the same thing. It's enumerating AD, right? So the last thing we can do, we'll walk over is, let me see, why isn't it working? Pretty much a diagram of the AD information. Looks cool. Yeah. So yeah, this is just pretty much a diagram with some kind of overview of your AD, right? So now what we'll do is, oh crap, what did I just do? Did I click on something? All right, let me, I think I accepted this thing. All right, so now, let me go ahead and just, 1 second. I don't know what happened to this screen. All right, that's fine. All right, so this is the post enumeration, right? Now we'll do some attacking, and then we'll open up for some, questions and answers and stuff like that. So now what can we do when we have a password, we have a hash, we have all that good stuff. Let me go ahead and just do a little cd dot dot. Let's do a little cd dot dot again. No, let's cd back into Sunday Funday, so I don't mess up anything else. Let me take this kid out of the back so I don't see his cabezon. All right. All right, so let's come here, come back here. All right, cool deal. All right, so now what we can do is do a few more techniques Do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions before we continue? This is probably the last thing. And then, if you have any questions after, you can hit me up, let me know. But, I could talk about this for hours, and I want to try to obviously be kind of everyone's time. And we're almost at 1 o'clock. So we started about, 11:15. So 2 hours, I think will be a good amount of time to hang out and do some hacking, sacking, and cool stuff. All right. So the next thing we could do is see what machines in your environment are susceptible to these attacks. Say, for example, we have a username and password. Can we pass that around the network? Something called like pass the hash or pass the password. These kinds of attacks, these are buzzwords, right? These people talk about pass the hash and all that stuff. So we can do crack map exec. All right. So this is not what we're going to be doing right now. This is something different. Let's come all the way back. All right, so we are going to use SMB 192.168.29.0/24 because that is my network that I'm utilizing in my lab. And we'll just stick to the user fcastle, right? So this is not my password. Password 1. So we're going to see what with fcastle credentials, who has he authenticated to and who he's capable of authenticating to. Let me make sure my machines didn't go to sleep, because I think after 10 minutes VMware puts these bad boys to sleep or something like that. 20 minutes, I don't remember. All right, let me just make sure they're up and going. All right, so let's go ahead and scan this and see if anything works. And sometimes in an assessment, maybe it won't work. Obviously, we got two that pwned, right? 32 and 132 and 133. PC1 and PC2, I was able to authenticate. So we know that these credentials are working on these machines. So now what we can do is run like Remini, or if RDP is open, or we can do something like crack map exec, or we could do evil WinRM. That's what I meant. Evil WinRM, then we can authenticate and then get a shell as well. All right. So now another technique we can do is pass the hash. Now we can take that hash. Now we just did a quote unquote pass the password. Now, whoops, let's go ahead and clear this out. And then, but what we need first is to capture the hash, the local hash, right? Anyone know how to capture a local hash? So say we need to get the hash from 192.168.29.133, for an example. How do we get that hash? How do we dump it? That's the secret word, right? How do we dump that hash? Anyone? You can even say just a tool if you don't know. Nothing? Okay. So it's called secrets dump, right? So secrets dump is no, this is not the user I want to use. I want to use fcastle. Right? So nyr.local. So now what we're going to do is dump the hash. Let's do, I'm an idiot. Wrong IP. All right, so let's do 133. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and dump all the hashes. The local hash, the first one was 131. Obviously, that's my domain controller. I'm not going to allow that, right? But if I got a user, a computer, now I have all the hashes for that local computer. That's SAM hashes, right? So what does that mean? Now I can see if I'm able to authenticate and pass that around pass that hash around the network, right? So I'm gonna go for administrator because we got it. Why not use it, right? So let's go ahead and just give this a jingle. Let's copy this. Copy that. Let's just leave that up there for a second. And let's go ahead and kill this. And let's go ahead and just do crack map exec. And let's all right, so I'm going to do 192.168.29.0/24. My username is administrator, right? And then I'm going to paste that hash here and see what we can pass around. So this is a pass the hash attack, right? So it's still cooking. We got a few pwned. So let me try to make this a little smaller. Let me run that again. See if we can, whatever. All right, so I like a little bit of like this. So now we can see that we got 3. So now this, if you see this, this is pretty interesting. Let me try to make this a little larger so you can see it. So now we were able to utilize that hash, that administrator hash. So whoever created that domain controller used the same password on all their local machines. If maybe like Devin, maybe not so modern, but maybe several years ago, even before COVID, people would say, okay, I'm going to set up a new domain controller, right? You set up your thing, you set up your server, and you put it, you log in as the admin, you create your admin password, your super secret password. And now it's like, okay, now I need to create a new computer on the domain. So you prep it, you do sysprep or whatever you use to prep your machine, and you probably authenticate to that. You should probably use that same administrator user password for administrator, right? So it's just across the board. I'm a victim of it, so I know the drill. So now you think it's a local password, right? It's like, local. I joined, so I created a domain controller, blah, 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 blah. But with that local admin, I can do some damage. Trust me, I can do some damage. So what we can do now is take this hash and pass it around. Now, one other thing we can do even further is what's more critical than the domain admin account? What about the local users that are associated with those computers, right? So you have something called a security, a SAM database, right? So let's go ahead and clear this out. And let's go ahead and hit the up arrow. And I'm just going to do local authenticated, and then -- SAM, right? So now this is going to go ahead and do the same kind of thing, go around the network. And now what is it doing? Now it's dumping out local usernames like infosec_pat. That's my local. Now, with this hash, what can I do? I can do a lot more things, right? So you guys get the gist. And now another thing we can do, let's clear that out. And we can do, so let's see what shares are on there. So maybe I can try to authenticate to shares, and same kind of thing. We can see, okay, see all these shares that are open on PC1 and PC2, right? And you guys are getting the gist, right? So with these kinds of attacks is super, super critical. And this is the last tool I'll show is netexec. So we can do netexec. Do I have netexec on here? Yeah. And then same thing, SMB, netexec. I type. Okay. What the hell is going on my keyboard? All right, netexec. I don't know what netexec is. I do, but you don't, right? So what we can do is run netexec and see what protocols, what options we have. And we have pretty much the same thing as crackmap_exec, but this is a little more modern. You're going to use this more on pen testing today versus crackmap_exec. So we're going to let's keep attacking SMB since it's pretty easy, right? So let's do SMB, and then we're going to do 192.168.29.0/24. And then we're going to do fcastle. Let's just stick with that user. Oh, we need to do -u. The user fcastle, right? And then the domain is my case nyr.local. And then my password is password1. Okay. This is going to do pretty much the same thing, but it's a little more modernized, right? This is another tool for your toolkit. And yeah, obviously now, I guess this would be the last thing, right? There's a cool little thing that we can utilize and see inside of crackmap_exec, what's called a crackmap_exec database. So now after your pen testing, or after you're done, you can do CM, I think it's CMEDB, I think. And then we can do host, which host that it compromised. And let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller. And we can say, okay, like these are the credentials, these are the machines that we were able to scan and compromise and blah, blah, blah. And now we can see, let's go ahead and clear this. Clear, if I can just type or Control-L. And I'll just make this a little bigger and look at creds. And now you can see, well, now these are all the credentials that I was able to compromise. Password1, all these hashes. And now I can take this offline and crack them or whatever I want to do with them. So yeah, I could go on and on, but I think, it's almost 1 o'clock. I want to wrap up, and I'll stay around for 15, 20 minutes to hang out for any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen so we can just hang out. And let me let's come back here. Did I stop sharing? No, stop sharing. And view speaker. Yeah, so any questions you may have, just that's it. So that's how you do some internal pen testing on an AD environment. And this is what I do and how I go about my day if I'm doing an internal assessment. So if you guys have any preguntas, ask me. Cool, thank you. Appreciate that. I try, man. I know a little bit. I just don't. Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah. So like I said, I'll hang out for a few minutes, and 10 minutes. If there's any questions, and again, you guys know where to find me, InfoSecPat, pretty much across all platforms. And you can go to infosecpat.com as well. I have a site. You can check me out there. And it's new. It's still a work in progress, but I'm not as cool as Kevin, but we'll get in there. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to arm wrestle. Who's ready? He's not. Yeah, I'll be at Yeah, I'm ready to arm wrestle whoever. Kevin, man, I wish I would have got him filming. I wish we'd have got that shit on film, because it was funny. We were in DEF CON. We were in like the main lobby, right? Like where everyone was doing the CTS. And Kevin's face, dude, I gotta love it. Like, he was trying with all his might, and that boy couldn't even move my arm. You better step up your game, Kev. And I'm not jacked, you know what I mean? I'm just really strong, but I was able to move the air. I love you, Kev. But yeah, man. So like I said, I'll be at the next conference I'll be at is B-Side Tampa. And then the following week, I'll be speaking and teaching a workshop similar to this, but building it. And maybe we'll do some attacks like we did today, but I only have, I think, 2 hours there too. So imagine we just hung out 2 hours just attacking it in some presentation, right? There we have to build the lab. So it might take an hour and a half, depending on how many people. So hopefully I can get some attacking in with all those folks. But yeah, anyone have any questions? If not, well, we can, have a beautiful Sunday. And yeah, like I said, I'll hang out. The questions come in. How many people are on here? I don't even know. How many people are left? 11. Whoa. Cherry, do you have any questions? No? All right. So yeah, Kev, like if you want to jump on, close us out. I really appreciate you guys' time. Much love. Hopefully you guys found this informative. And if you guys want to join I'm going to be doing some Saturday hacking as well. So I built a lab 2 weeks ago, and we were doing similar stuff to this, a little different stuff yesterday on attacking the environment that we built. But just remember, just learn the methodologies, learn the concepts. Don't worry if it's 2 machines or 1,000 machines. The concepts are there. The methodology is the same. As long as if you can compromise 1 account, you can compromise 1,000 accounts. Just remember that. But yeah, you guys have no questions. I'll pass the baton to Kev. And much love. I thank you guys for your time. And we can close out.
Does anyone have any other questions for Pat? I want to make sure I give back his time too, as I know he's busy.
Doesn't seem like there's any questions, but I definitely learned a lot.
Appreciate it. And hopefully, everyone learned a little something. And like I said, if you have any questions, if you want to build the same lab, if you want to, practice some techniques, even like we were getting that error that we couldn't pop that shell because AV was enabled, but there's ways around that. But we have to create that, right? Use some MSF Venom. We have to create a payload. We have to create stuff in order to deliver that to the victim, right? With social engineering, they execute that, and then we get the reverse shell. So maybe we could do that next time, or maybe I can do something on my channel to what's called AV invasion. But if no questions, I guess we can end the recording. And I thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Pat, for being here and teaching us today. Really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back at some point, probably this year. I would love to have you on an on-site event, most likely in New York at some point this year. Maybe B-Sides New York or something like that. And just have you teach something like on the side with Rice's Cyber. And then someone was asking about where do we get access to the recording in the deck. So someone wants access to the deck.
Yeah, so the deck, the thing that I created, I can email that. Just hit me up. Just hit me up and I can email that. It's I can send that out, or I can maybe put it on my site. Just I don't want to put it on my site, but just hit me up and I can shoot that over.
Yeah, and the recording is going to be on the Raíces Cyber Discord, in the New York chapter area. So because obviously we've been recording in New York, and I'll put it in the general area too, just so anyone that it's part of Raíces Cyber will have the recording. And I'm going to send a copy to Pat. So, with that being said, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to start recording. Thank you, Pat, for being here. I really appreciate you for spending time with us. I know you're busy, and I know you have a lot of other things going on behind the scenes. So thank you for putting your time and effort here and teaching us today.
You're welcome. Anytime. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Let's stop recording.